Hi everybody, welcome to my channel if you're new here, and if you're not, welcome back. My name is Rihanna, and today I'm going to be telling you all of the things that you should do if you want to learn how to crochet, and all the things that you should not, absolutely not do if you want to crochet. So if that interests you, then keep watching. Hey guys, it's editing Rihanna, and I realized that I never told you explicitly the different things we're talking about in this video, and I really wanted to do that. So yeah, the things we're going to talk about is the crochet starter kit, everything you need, and it's only the basics, so you're not spending a ton of money to pick up a project that you may not finish. It happens to everyone, I totally get it. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts, so what you should do and what you shouldn't do when you're starting crocheting. All of the basic stitches, and then a little bit extra. I'm gonna actually teach you how to crochet them, so grab your yarn and your hook and get ready for that. What to do after your first project, because nobody really talks to you about that, and I don't want to just like help you get into this and then leave you be. Like, that would be so rude. And then after that is just any extra supplies that you can get if you just like live and breathe crochet and you love it so much. So yeah, keep watching if you want to see all of those things. So if you're a beginner crocheter, here is your starter kit, and let me just tell you that it is not a million things. It's not. It's very, very simple. All that you need to start crocheting is a 5mm hook and some weight 4 yarn. That's it. You don't need to go out and buy all of the crazy fancy kits or anything like that. All you need is just one hook and some yarn. Some other things that I would recommend though is some scissors, but I'm sure that everybody has some scissors at home. I never use the yarn scissors. I just always use those. And then some darning needles and some stitch markers. These are actually very helpful as a beginner because it's really hard to see stitches when you're not accustomed to seeing stitches, and a lot of patterns will tell you to refer to like 3 stitches from the chain or things like that, and it's just so much easier if you just mark them than if you like try to like count them and you're not sure what you're looking at. So yeah, that's basically all you need. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Easy. You don't need to go to your local Joann's, although you won't be able to for very long, but you won't have to go to your local Michael's or Hobby Lobby and stock up on a ton of supplies, because it's really an accessible and easy craft to get your hands on. So that's all you need for the materials. That's it. Now what? So for this part of the video, I just want to start off by showing you guys a picture of my first project, my first ever project. I don't think I've really talked about like how I really learned how to crochet. All you need to know is that I got a kit of 3 Amigurumis, and they were using a 2.25mm hook and size 2 yarn, I think. Yeah, that's not the way to learn. Please do not do that. I was extremely lucky in that it just kind of came naturally to me. Just no. Do not start with tiny yarn, amigurumi, and tiny hooks. Just don't do it. The second thing that I would recommend is that you do not start with a granny square project. Just don't do it. I have trouble finishing granny square projects, and I've been crocheting for almost 3 years now. And it's just the fact that you have to do the same stitch over and over again. And once you like finish a square, it's like, oh my gosh, I finished a whole square. This is so cute. This is so adorable. I love it so much. But what are you going to do with this? Nothing. And you know how many ends you have to weave in? Look, I haven't even finished weaving in all my ends. That is the most annoying part about crochet, is weaving in your ends. And you just picked up a project where you have to weave in 97 ends if you're going to make anything with this, like a shirt or a skirt or a blanket. Don't even consider a blanket, okay? Yeah, you're just gonna give up. You're gonna give up. I already know, because you are me and I am you. I would have given up if I started with a granny square project. So just don't do that. Personally, I would also recommend that you do not start with plush yarn. I know I have a very alluring pile of plush yarn here, ignore it. Ignore it for right now. Don't start with it. It is very finicky. It breaks, depending on the brand you use, it breaks very, very easily, and it sheds a lot, which is very annoying. Like, my entire floor is covered in yarn, and that's not because I have actual yarn on the floor, it's because my yarn had babies, and the babies are on the floor, okay? And you don't want to deal with that. You just don't want to deal with that. I also would recommend that you do not start with black yarn, or any dark colored yarn for that matter, because look, it's so hard to see. It's so hard to see. Like, obviously you can see the yarn, but like, whenever you're working with it, it is very difficult to see the stitches. I still struggle with crocheting with black yarn, and mostly the reason that I can crochet with black yarn pretty well is because I don't have to look when I crochet anymore. So I just avoid black yarn. Just don't do it for your first project. It's more trouble than it's worth. And then the last thing that I would like to warn you against is, I kind of already said it, but don't do a blanket. I don't care what kind of blanket it is. I don't care if it's a granny square blanket. I don't care if it's a single crochet blanket. You're insane if you try to do that. Even if you've been crocheting for forever, if you try to do a single crochet blanket, I have so much respect for you, but I also kind of fear you a little bit. Just don't do a blanket. It's so much work. Unless you're doing a baby blanket, but even then, don't do a baby blanket. I did a baby blanket once, and it was fun until it wasn't, and I was only halfway done with it. So yeah, just don't do any projects that you're gonna go and you're gonna work on it till about halfway, and then you're gonna give up because you don't want to do the same stitch over and over again. Last thing is, whenever you are trying to learn to crochet, do not, I repeat, do not go scrolling on Pinterest for hours and hours just saving a bunch of projects that you're never going to do. I am also that type of person that just wants to get inspired, and Pinterest is like my guilty pleasure, for real. But I think I probably have only done like 3 of the million projects that I've saved. And it's okay to get inspired and to look for media that you want to recreate yourself. But I would caution you against just consuming and not actually creating. Stop consuming. Go do the thing. Go actually sit down and do the thing. I know we can all get stuck in just consuming as much media as we possibly can until our brains are just full of things that we want to do. And then by the time we're like, okay, I'm gonna go do it, it's like 12 a.m. and like there's no point in doing it. So put the Pinterest down, put the Instagram down, and pick up the hook and the yarn. So yeah, that's the things that I would say to avoid. Also, just don't, like I kind of already said this, but don't go out and buy a ton of stuff if you have no idea if you're even gonna like it. Like, I can't tell you how many hobbies that I've started and just never finished. And now I just have like a half-finished diamond painting in my closet. And it's like, what am I gonna do with that? Just don't do that, especially with yarn. Like, she takes up some room. You don't need that taking up space in your life, and you don't need that taking up money out of your wallet. So just save yourself the time and energy and money and just buy the basics for the beginning. And then if you try it and you're like, oh my gosh, this changes my life, I want to do this for forever, then at that point, sure, go spend $100 on yarn. Those are the things I would avoid against whenever you're learning how to crochet. So let's get on to So one of the first things that I would recommend you do is pick out a light colored yarn. Kind of the opposite of don't use black yarn, use light colored yarn. It is so much easier to see your stitches. It is very important whenever you're learning how to crochet, because if you can't identify the stitches by how they look, then how are you going to know where you are in the pattern? It's important. I would also recommend that even though it looks alluring and you want to just get right into it, I would say that whenever you're learning how to crochet, don't pick up a project. Just learn the stitches first. Learn the basic ones, and guess what? That's what we're going to be doing in a few minutes. So if you have your yarn and hook handy, we can do that together. How fun would that be? But yeah, just focus on learning the stitches first. Make a little like square that is nothing. just a square of all of the stitches that you need to learn, and I'll talk about those. Then after you do a gauge swatch of all of the stitches that you need, and it might take a couple of them, it might take a couple of squares for you to look at your stitches and be like, those are starting to look uniform, those are starting to look like how I see the person on YouTube or the picture on Pinterest, how I see their stitches looking. It might take a couple of tries. That's just how it is. You're learning a new skill, you're developing your fine motor skills. It's going to take some time. So I would recommend that you do those swatches until you get it to a point where you're like, yeah, that's what's important. So you want to choose a smaller project. And might I recommend, I have come out with a tutorial, I think it's over here, that is super beginner friendly. It's a small tutorial. It's a lace bandana. Let me pull it out for you. So it doesn't look as great whenever you're just holding it because it's specifically made to avoid the overlap that you normally get here with crocheted bandanas. So it doesn't lay flat because guess what? Your head isn't flat. So yeah, it's super cute. It just goes like this, and you tie it around, and it uses all of the stitches that we're going to learn together today. It is just repeated over and over again so that you can really practice your stitch definition and your tension, which is very important. And I think it's also just cute. Like, I would wear this all the time, and I'm going to. So I think that this is the perfect first project whenever you're learning to crochet. So go check out that video after you watch this one because you gotta learn the stitches first. So after that, after your first project, then you can start taking on the bigger projects that you have saved on Pinterest. But I highly suggest that you do it in a linear fashion. Don't go straight from a bandana to a full two-piece set. Like, just don't do that. Just work your way up. Start with small things, go to like medium things, then large things, then maybe jumbo things. It makes it so much better in the long run if you do it that way, because I know people who have tried to just jump into the big things and then they just give up because it's hard. It's hard to motivate yourself to continually pick up the project that you've been working on for days and weeks and months even, and just continue with it. It's hard. It's a difficult thing to do. So it's so much easier whenever you get that dopamine rush whenever you finish a project to pick the smaller ones because they're not going to take as long. So that's what I would recommend for whenever you're learning to crochet. And yeah, let's get into Alright guys, so now we're going to make the gauge switch together. This is basically just so you guys have some practice doing the most common stitches. So I would say that the 4 most common stitches are chain, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. So there are some other stitches that we're going to do as well, but we're just going to start off with those 4. And to do a chain, all you need is your yarn and your 5mm hook. And you're going to wrap the yarn around your finger so that it creates an X, and you're going to create a slip knot. So you're going to pull that yarn through to create a little loop, stick your hook into that loop, and then tighten the slip knot. It doesn't matter how long your tail is, although I would recommend that it's not too long because you don't want to waste yarn. To do a chain, this is the easiest stitch. All you have to do is grab the yarn, like so, and pull it through the loop. And that's a chain. And you can do this for as long as you want. And you see here, I guess I should have started with this, but the way you hold your yarn is very important. What I like to do to create maximum control over my yarn is to wrap it around my pinky twice, go behind my ring finger, in front of my middle finger, and behind my pointer finger. And that helps me keep this consistent tension here. So you see that all of my stitches look basically the same. And you're going to want to do this until your chain looks this consistent. It doesn't have to be like perfect or anything, but you want it to be mostly just the same. So once you get there, what you're going to do now is we're gonna learn the single crochet. So I'm gonna do one more. And now, to do a single crochet, you're gonna skip this stitch. See all of these V's? All of these V's are stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. You're gonna go to the second chain from the hook. So this is the first chain, this is the second chain. And you're gonna insert your hook into the top part of the stitch. You're going to pull the yarn through and draw up a loop so that you have 2 loops on your hook. Then you're going to wrap the yarn around your hook again and pull through both loops. And that's a single crochet. That right there is a single crochet. Let's do it one more time. You go into the stitch, you grab the yarn, pull up a loop so that you have 2 loops. Then you wrap the yarn around the hook and pull through both. Now, there is 2 different ways to do this. You can grab the yarn like this, which is yarning under, and pull through 2. Or you can put the yarn over the hook, which is yarning over, and pull through. I personally find that yarning over looks more cohesive. It creates a more defined stitch. So I just recommend doing that for all of your projects. Just yarn over for every stitch, not just the single crochet. And then you should do this stitch until you get all the way to the end of your chain, and you'll notice that your chain starts to curl up a little bit. Don't worry about that. It's not a big deal. You'll just straighten it out as you do more stitches into it. But you can also just straighten it out manually and pull it, and it levels out. But yeah, just keep doing this single crochet, and if you need it to be explained again, just go back to when we first did it until you get to the very end of your chain, and your single crochets should look like this. See the little X's? It's like a line there and a line there. That's what you want to see. And I would recommend practicing this until they look mostly uniform. Now we're going to do a half double crochet. So you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. When somebody says to turn your work, you're basically working on the wrong side or opposite side, and you start working backwards. Okay? So now what you're going to do for a half double crochet is you're going to wrap the yarn around the hook before you insert the stitch, or the hook into the stitch. Now, do you see how there's these little holes here? That's exactly where you're going to insert your hook. So for this first one, we go right in here, and you see how there's these little V's here? You're going to want to make sure that you're going between both loops, not just the first one, so not just like this, because you see how I'm only going through one. You want to make sure that you're going through both. And you're going to pull up a loop so that you have 3 loops on your hook. And then you're going to wrap the yarn around your hook and pull through all 3. And that's a half double crochet. So let's do it again. Wrap the yarn around your hook, insert the hook into the stitch, pull up a loop so that you have 3, wrap the yarn around your hook, and pull through all 3 loops. That's a half double crochet. So let's keep doing that all the way down. And you'll notice as we learn all of these stitches that as we go up, it's just adding another loop to your hook that changes the stitch. So yeah, just keep doing this all the way to the end. And if you have to, you can pull out and do the row again to keep practicing and making sure that all of your stitches look uniform. Now with a half double crochet, this doesn't look the same as a single crochet. And so it has more of like a V pattern. You can see it's almost like an arrow pointing up. And you'll see it start to curl up a little bit. So you can straighten that out if you want. And yeah. Now you have a second row of half double crochet and single crochet. Now to the next one, we're going to do double crochet. And you're going to chain 2 for this one because it's taller. What you're going to do for double crochet is you're going to wrap the yarn around the hook just like you did for half double crochet. And you're going to insert the hook into the stitch and pull up a loop, just like half double crochet. So we have 3 loops. But the thing that separates half double crochet from double crochet is that whenever you yarn over again, you only pull through the first 2 loops so that you have 2 loops on your hook after. Then you're going to yarn over again and pull through those 2 loops. That's a double crochet. You see how there's 1 stitch here and 1 stitch here? Technically this is 1 stitch, but it's a double crochet because it has 2 single crochets in one. Then you yarn over, insert into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to do that all the way down the row, making sure you're only going through the first top 2 stitches. So basically each stitch that you do, it just adds an extra step to what you normally do for a single crochet. And that's why I would say that single crochet is the most common, because basically in every stitch you do an element of single crochet in that stitch. And you'll notice how this double crochet has a much different look than the single crochet and the half double crochet. You can really see the difference here. If you notice that your edges aren't looking as straight as mine, make sure you are double checking that you are going into every stitch down to the last corner, because this last V here, that is a stitch. If it's focusing, yeah, that last V is a stitch. So make sure you're going into all of your stitches and not skipping any, or else it will not have as straight of edges. A way that you can really mark that is whenever you make this last stitch here for your double crochet, and we're going to go on to what we call treble crochet or triple crochet. We're going to chain 3. But what you can do is take this handy dandy stitch marker and you can mark the first stitch right here. So you automatically know where the first stitch is. But for this row, you would actually mark the one we're about to do. So let's do that. You chain 3 for a treble crochet. Then you're going to wrap the yarn around the hook twice. So there's 3 loops on your hook. Then you're going to insert the hook into the stitch and pull up a loop so that you have 4 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. This is a treble crochet. Let's do it one more time. Yarn over twice, insert the hook into the stitch, yarn over twice, yarn over, yarn over. So you notice it's called a treble crochet or a triple crochet, and you have to pull through 2 loops 3 times. That's a good way to remember it. So you see here that we have our 2 stitches here. You can take your stitch marker and put it into the first stitch. And that's how you know whenever we get back that that was the first stitch you made. That's really handy for beginner crocheters who don't notice the stitches as much. So yeah, make sure that whenever you're pulling through the loops, you pull through both. And we're just going to do this all the way down. This is really great practice to make sure that you're getting your tension consistent, that you're doing the stitch all the same way, because when you do it in a line, you can tell when one is different than the other. And I know it might be boring right now, but this is basically like practicing your scales whenever you're learning an instrument. It's super boring, but it's so necessary and helps you become a better musician, just like this helps you become a better crocheter. We all gotta learn how to ride our bikes with training wheels. And you'll notice that as I go on through, I'm speeding up, because as you practice this stitch more and more, it gets easier and easier, because at some point it'll just be muscle memory. So this is our little swatch, and you'll notice how each stitch is different. we started off with our single crochet, which is what these X's are. Then we did our half double crochet. And you'll also notice that because we turn our work, there is a right side and a wrong side for every stitch. This is the right side for a single crochet, because you can see that X. So if you ever do amigurumi, you'll know that the X needs to be on the outside. And then the half double crochet, the right side is on this side, and you'll see that little arrow pointing up right there. And then this is the right side for the double crochet. You can see a little like twist right here. Kind of looks like a lightning bolt. Can you see that? Like a little lightning bolt. This is the double crochet row, and then this is the treble crochet row. And this is the right side for that. So it's actually really pretty. Kind of looks like a cuff. You could turn it into a little sweater cuff. So those are all of the main stitches that you'll need whenever you're learning how to work with medium weight yarn. There are some other stitches that I want to go over, but you probably won't see them as much in medium weight projects. They're more so for amigurumi. But let's just say we're doing an ami piece. So it tells you to do 5 single crochets. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 single crochets. And then it tells you INC. This stands for an increase. So what you're going to do is in the next stitch, you're going to do a single crochet, and then in the same stitch you're going to do another single crochet, and that's an increase. Do you see here? Let me do this real quick. It's easier to see whenever it's not the outside stitch. So do you see how all of these are even? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then here we have 2 single crochets in the same stitch. That's called an increase. And then what if later on in the pattern it says, oh, 3 single crochet, so we have our 3 single crochet, and then it says DEC. DEC stands for decrease. So the way that you would do a decrease is by inserting your hook into the front loop only of the first stitch, and then going into the next stitch and also inserting your hook into the front loop only. So you do have ultimately 2 loops on the hook. Well, 3 if you count this one. But you're going through 2 different stitches at the same time. And you'll see that that gives you a decrease. So instead of having 2 stitches there, you only have 1. That's an increase and a decrease, which is something you'll see way more often in amigurumi than you will in like designing clothes or things like that. And as I pull all this out, I want to teach you guys what was actually the first stitch that I ever learned, and is one that gets a lot of grief in the community because it can be a little tricky to learn and tricky to master. For me, I would try the stitch over and over and over again, and sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. And that was very frustrating for me because I was like, I don't understand what I'm doing differently. So this stitch can be really frustrating, which is why I saved it for last, because I wanted you to feel confident after getting something done. But we do need to learn this stitch because it's an important stitch, and there is some cheats. There's some ways you can get around it, which I'll also show to you if it just doesn't work out for you, but it will. We're not claiming that energy. We are going to succeed at making the magic ring. Now, why is it magic, you may ask? Well, that's because it is magic, okay? You'll see. So the way that I like to do a magic ring and the way that it was taught to me is to take my 3 fingers on my non-dominant hand, to wrap the yarn over it, to grab it from the other side and make an X so that your non-working yarn is on the right at the top and your working yarn is on the right at the bottom, making sure that your non-working yarn is over the working yarn. And this is called the working yarn because that's what you're working with. And I also like to grab the excess with my pinky, but keep that X steady. Now you're going to take your hook and you're going to go under the top right and you're going to grab the top left. And you're going to wrap it around your hook so that you have a little loop here. Then you're also going to go to the top left and you're going to grab the yarn and you're going to pull that through the loop you made. And then boom, you have a magic ring. Now, why is it magic? Look. Whee! You can tighten it and loosen it as you need to. So, that's a magic ring. Let's do it together one more time. And it is okay if this stitch gives you trouble. I think I did magic rings probably 40 times whenever I was learning to crochet, and probably like 10 of those 40 times I actually ended up getting it right. So it's okay if it doesn't make sense to you right now. It will. Just keep trying. Keep that patience and perseverance handy. So we got our 3 fingers. We got our yarn. We have the first makings of an X. You grab the non-working yarn and you put it under the working yarn. Then you pull it up over the working yarn to make an X, like so. Okay? Then you'll grab your hook, go under the top right, grab the top left. Make a little loop, just like that, and then grab the top left and pull through. And whenever people tell you to, let's say, make 6 single crochets in a magic ring, you'll go into the ring as a stitch and make your single crochets as such. And you can see the magic. I'll show it to you real quick. One more. Okay. And then when it says to pull the magic ring closed, this is what they mean. So it makes a little circle. Ain't that nice? Anyway, so you've tried the magic ring, it's just not working out for you, but you have a project where you need a magic ring. Guess what? You can do a chain 2 method. So we already learned the chain. You already know how to make a slip knot. You already know how to chain. All you have to do is chain 2. 1 and 2. And then you can make all of your single crochets into the first chain, just like you would in the magic ring. The only downside to this method is that it's a little more easier for it to fall apart, I would say, if you don't weave in your ends correctly. And it's harder for you to pull it shut because it's not really a magic ring. But it still gives you the same end result. So, now that you've learned all of the basic stitches that you need to know for crochet, now you can get on to the good stuff. So now that you know all of your stitches, go ahead and just do your first project. See what happens. I highly recommend my tutorial for beginner crocheters. It is a very small but rewarding project. So what if you've done that? You're already well on your way to becoming a master crocheter. What's next? So if this interests you, I would recommend going to Amigurumi. This is something that I do a lot of. I sell plushies at markets and they do really well. People love plushies. They're great gifts and they're just adorable. They're so cute. So what do you need to do Amigurumi? Well, you are going to need some stuffing for sure. Polyfill stuffing. It doesn't, like, if you have like a pillow that you don't want and you want to reuse the stuffing from that, go for it. I like to use yarn scraps a lot because that's more sustainable. I'm not throwing away any yarn that is just way too small for me to make anything with. Basically anything that you can use to stuff your stuffed animals with, but I mostly use polyfill and yarn scraps. You're also going to need some safety eyes. These are 12mm safety eyes, which are my preferred size of safety eye, just because I make a little bit bigger of projects, but you can get any size. It doesn't really matter what size you get. Like these are 10 millimeter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I also would recommend getting a set of stitch markers because you're gonna lose it. You're gonna lose your stitch markers. They're gonna disappear. They're gonna fly away, and you're never gonna see them again. So if you get a set of them, then you don't have to worry about not having a stitch marker. And also pretty colors. Pretty colors. Also, life hack. If you are the type of person to start a million projects and you just don't remember what hook size that you use for the projects, you can match the color of your stitch marker to the color of your hook to make sure that you know, oh, you pick up the project, oh, it has a yellow hook. Well, that's a bad example. Oh, it has a blue hook. That means that I was using my 15 millimeter hook because it's the same color. Life hack. Which brings me to my next thing is you're gonna need a variety of hooks. I just bought one off of Amazon. All of the stuff that I'm talking about is going to be in my Amazon storefront, which is linked below, so you should go check it out. But yeah, so variety pack of hooks. The one you're going to need the most for Amigurumi is an 8 millimeter hook. This one's crusty and dusty, but yeah, 8 millimeter hook is what you need for Ami. But at this point, just buy the whole pack. At this point, you're already knee deep in, okay? And then obviously you're going to need bigger yarn. You can make amigurumi with weight 4 yarn, but it is so much more difficult than making ami with plus yarn, in my opinion. But you might find that to be the opposite. Crocheting is very different for each person. So yeah, that's basically what you need for ami. So now that you've done the first project, you've dabbled in ami, what now? You're reaching for more. You want even more of crochet. You are obsessed. It's been so much fun. Now what? Okay, so these are the tools that you can buy that will just make crocheting easier and more fun. And I wouldn't recommend this for a beginner and someone that's probably not gonna like crochet a lot. They just like do it sometimes. I would recommend this for my hardcore crocheters. Like crochet, you live and breathe crochet, okay? So I would say this is specifically for amigurumi artists. You need a safety eye tool. You need a tool that is going to make it so that you don't pinch your fingers on the safety eyes whenever you're closing them. So I got this tool off of Etsy, which I'll link below. It basically is just one side has a flat and then one side has a little hole. And what you do is whenever you get to the part where you need to put your safety eyes on, you get the eye part of it and you put it on this side and you have that pressed against your project. And then you have the closing part of the safety eye and then you just close it. Easy. It might take a little force depending on your safety eyes, but you don't have to like use your hands. And guess what? Your hands are everything when you're crocheting. So not having sore fingers is very important for crocheting for long periods of time. So I would highly recommend that. You should definitely go check them out. It's just gonna be helpful to you. The second thing that I want to talk about is this handy dandy yarn winder here. I upgraded to this mechanical yarn winder a few weeks ago, and it has changed my life. I'm not ashamed to say that. It has changed my life. 180. But it is actually very helpful because the way that companies will send skeins to you or that you will buy skeins is usually in this form. And it looks like this. Now this is fine and dandy and all that, but it is really hard to work with sometimes. A lot of people like to do a center pull, which is where you pull from the center of the skein. Don't know why I put this up. It's where you pull from the center, but look at all that yarn barf, bro. It's a mess. And then if you pull from the outside, it just gets a tangled mess and you have to like stop what you're doing, pull the yarn, make room. It's annoying. So people like to wind these skeins into cakes, which is what I've been showing you. This is a cake. This was made by this angel device over here. It just makes it easier to crochet. It's just so much easier. And if you get one of these handy dandy yarn holders, I'll put a picture up here because I haven't gotten one yet and I need to. I don't know why I haven't. But if you get one of these, then you can just stick the cake on this yarn holder. And then when you're crocheting, it just unravels for you. Genius. Whoever thought of that? They need to get a raise or something. And the last tool that I want to talk about is a I-cord knitting machine. Technically this is knitting and not crocheting, but who says you can't do both? So this handy dandy thing is very helpful if you like to make a lot of bags or things that require straps, because I don't know about you, but chaining 50 and then doing a bunch of rows of single crochet or any crochet it's just not my cup of tea. So what I like to do instead is put my yarn into one of these and it makes a cord for me. And the cord is not only prettier, but it's also sturdier than if I just did a chain and single crochets, okay? So highly recommend this tool if you make a lot of bags or straps for things. You could even use it for like clothing if you wanted to. So that's everything for extra tools that would make your life easier as a crocheter. Wow. Somebody wants to be a star. Do you want to be a star, Zuko? He wants his time in the spotlight. There we go. Is this your time to shine, buddy? What do you have to say to the world? Anything? He's just my baby. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you found this very helpful and that crochet and learning to crochet isn't as daunting as you thought it was. I think it's a very fun and relaxing hobby that anyone can do, and I hope that you fall in love with it just as much as I have. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me if you did. The support is how I keep doing things like this. So just let me know if you have any questions and I will get back to you as soon as I can. You can leave a comment or you can message me on any of the apps. I have all of my socials linked below. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and I hope that you fall in love with crocheting. Bye. Say bye, Zuko. Say bye-bye. Hi, buddy.